You know what's strange? We obsess over generations. We analyze boomers for ruining the economy. And we dissect Gen Z like they're some kind of fascinating new species. But there's this entire generation that just exists in the middle, barely mentioned, almost invisible. Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980. Psychologists often call them the middle child of history. But here's what nobody tells you. That invisibility wasn't an accident. It was a survival strategy. Today, we're looking at the psychology of the latchkey generation, how growing up unsupervised created a mindset of extreme self-reliance, defensive pessimism, and a skepticism that baffles younger generations. Picture this. It's 1978. You're 8 years old. You come home to an empty house. You let yourself in, make a snack, and you're alone for 3 hours until your parents get home. This was the Latchkey Kid phenomenon. It wasn't neglect by the standards of the time, it was just normal. But psychologically, this created a high-contingency environment. Gen X learned early on that actions have real consequences. If you lost your key, you sat on the porch. If you didn't do your homework, nobody was hovering over you to remind you. They were regularly unsupervised on a massive scale, and that forged a specific neural pathway. If something goes wrong, you fix it, because nobody is coming to save you. This brings us to a core trait of Gen X psychology: defensive pessimism. They grew up watching their parents talk a big game about stability, only to watch divorce rates skyrocket in the 70s and 80s. They saw corporate loyalty die when mass layoffs became common in the 90s. And let's not forget the background radiation of their childhood, the Cold War. They did duck and cover drills under school desks, fully aware that a piece of wood wouldn't save them from a nuclear blast. Adults acted like everything was fine while preparing for the world to end. So yeah, psychologists might call it cynicism, but Gen X just calls it being realistic. They developed irony as a shield. They expect the rug to get pulled out because, honestly, that's what kept happening. This created a generation that keeps things at arm's length emotionally. If you don't expect much, you can't be disappointed. Now, let's talk about their relationship with authority, because it's complicated. Gen X has zero patience for incompetence. Because they raised themselves, they respect competence, not titles. If you're a boss, but you don't know how to do the job, Gen X won't respect you. They are the whatever generation, but that attitude is often misunderstood in the workplace. It's not laziness, it's efficiency. They want to do the work and go home. They don't need the applause, and they definitely don't need the meetings about the meetings. Remember, they entered the workforce during recessions and the dot-com burst. They are entrepreneurial by nature, often out of necessity. They treat employment like a transaction, not a family. They are fiercely loyal to people, but rarely loyal to companies. But here's what's fascinating. Gen X is the bridge generation. They are the last generation to have an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. This affects how they process information. When a Gen X kid wanted to know something in 1985, they had to ride a bike to the library and use a card catalog. Knowledge had a physical cost. It required effort. Cognitive psychologists suggest this leads to deeper encoding. They learned to fix things with their hands because you couldn't just watch a YouTube tutorial. This gave them a mechanical intuition, a sense that the physical world is solvable. They are comfortable with boredom, and they are comfortable being alone with their thoughts in a way that is becoming increasingly rare. However, there is a downside to all this independence. Gen X tends to struggle with asking for help. Research in the Journal of Adult Development suggests that this cohort often exhibits lower levels of social support seeking during stress. It borders on anxiety. To a Gen X mind, admitting you need help feels like a system failure. They are the ones holding it together for their aging boomer parents and their Gen Z kids. They are the sandwich generation, carrying the load silently. The truth is, Generation X might be the last generation that truly understands the world before the internet took over. They are the buffer, the pragmatic, cynical, incredibly capable generation that just gets on with it. If this hit home for you, please please subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives, hit that join button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate your support.